Yes.
Need a motion to reconvene
Yeah.
the work session, May 30th work session meeting.
Aye.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay,
Where were we at?
so we're gonna do a special meeting for the closed
Personnel.
session, personnel stuff, okay.
Okay.
Alright,
What's next?
Agenda formatting.
I mean, to me, and I don't have any problem how this is laid
This
out.
one looks great.
I know, I was gonna say, I think this is good.
You guys do, this one really looks much, much better. This last one. That's all I knew that was really, well, it's just little tiny things that I've mentioned. I know the staff feels more comfortable that we talk about it in an open meeting. But I see, to be honest, that a lot of the improvements have been incorporated in this agenda. For example, technically an agenda item is a title, and so everything should be capitalized as if it's a title. Yes, every item should be transparent, but it should be in the shortest form possible. This idea that we kind of, describe what the whole agenda item is about in the title is, there's a happy medium, being transparent, but not having an agenda title go on for 2 sentences or 3 sentences. When I say this, I'm saying it for dramatic effect, not that the staff has been doing this, so don't want you to take anything personally, it's just me being more, being animated. I'm not saying you have or haven't done it, just wherever we can shorten them. The other things I've noticed are when we propose a text amendment, the text amendment section needs to be there. Just didn't happen a lot, but a couple times when we said, consider text amendment to trail standards, for example, you need to be sure that you're citing the section of the Marvin Code of Ordinances, not just the ordinance itself. This looks nice and trim this time. I like the color and like the new organization is good.
There's color?
I like the fact that it's delineated.
Oh, yours has color.
Not that one,
Black.
but the green one.
I'm like, yeah.
Also, you guys really did a good job. At these village council work session meeting agenda at the top with the date, that was starting to turn into an essay.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
When, when it says village council work session meeting agenda at the top of today's agenda, and it's nice and trim, date, time, place, perfect. It's really neat. I just felt like we were kind of getting to the point where there was so much information up there, it was just getting a little bit, giving more information than we needed. The other thing I'll mention is, and I don't know when it started, I can understand why, especially when you're sort of learning the ins and outs of government and so on, but we have always said there's 2 types of meetings, right? Well, there's 3, not including emergency. Leaving aside statutorily, there's 3 types of meetings. Emergency meetings, special meetings, and regular meetings. And special meetings and regular meetings are important because there's some things you can do in them and some things that you can't, and those are regulated by the state. So it has been our practice for decades to say, regular meeting agenda or special meeting agenda. The work session I get, maybe it helps, but when it gets to the point where we're saying, budget work session meeting, and it's actually on the title, and it starts to kind of get into this long explanation, it starts to get a little, what's the word I'm looking for?
Clunky.
Yeah, awkward. I get people were sort of still trying to figure out what the differences are, but I'd like to get back to the idea that we talk about, and you guys can chime in here. The work session's fine, but a work session is still a regular meeting, right? It's on the regular
It's a
schedule.
regularly scheduled meeting, right?
Exactly. So to me, it should either be a regular meeting or it should be a special meeting. And then my hint, even as the clerk, was always to look at the date. I always knew that if the date was near the end of the month, it was probably a work session. And if it was at the beginning, it was probably like the official one. Only because when you look at the website, I know I'm just throwing things out there, but when you go to look at the website, we talk about branding, and to me this is all part of that. The meeting, if you look at the meeting audio, even that, we've got it says VC meeting, work session, budget, and the titles of those things are kind of, they're not as uniform as I would like them to be, where when you just said VC regular meeting for each one, everything is neat and it's trim and it looks really clean and professional. So if we can kind of,
So like this one, is this like an example of one that you like?
and my eyes are red.
I don't know, it was like 3 pages
Oh,
back.
was it in a packet?
Yeah.
Yeah, so now, all right, yeah, so this is an old one.
Yeah, that's an old one. So my question is, like, are you good with village council regular work session meeting, or would you just rather have regular meeting?
Regular meeting.
Okay. I mean, that doesn't matter.
It doesn't, that one doesn't matter to me as much. We went so far as to go work session, but now we're going to work session and then budget session, and it just feels like it's getting to be a little bit too much.
You just want to say cancel meeting?
Well,
Village council
here's the
meeting.
deal, I mean, I think what happened in the past, they did the work session, and the stuff that they couldn't get to or couldn't get to discussing and stuff,
Got moved to the work session.
got moved to the work session, or even topics that, like, say you happen to run across someone and say, hey, you should talk about this and do this for our community, then you, as a council, bring that in, and it's just open for discussion to see if it even should get on the agenda. That's the whole idea, because what had happened is
was just
these
another
work
full
session
meeting.
meetings
Yeah.
became another 4 to 5 hour meeting, which is what I know Nick was against, but I'm not gonna speak for him, but he said that numerous times. And what we were trying to accomplish, where we weren't taking any action, we talked about that almost a year and a half ago, that we weren't gonna be taking any action on these, but there are gonna be times when things get tabled and we have to take action on it. So we can leave it open for that, I guess, but it's,
But I mean, and I see what Mary's saying, like to her point, it's just a regular meeting. Like yes, we can call it a work session meeting, but it's a regular meeting. It's not a special meeting, it's not an emergency meeting, it's just a meeting. So I mean, I understand what she's saying.
so you have a problem putting work session on there versus regular meeting?
No.
Okay.
I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, but I understand the point of, it's just a regular meeting. Like, it may be our work session meeting and we can say
Right.
that, but it's still a regular meeting.
But I don't look at it as a regular meeting, because a regular meeting, you have the discussion of
But those are the
topics
only-
we're
Yeah,
gonna
but those are the
take
kind of
action
meetings
on.
you can have. You can have an emergency meeting, you can have a special meeting, or you can have a regular meeting.
Exactly.
And that's her point. And I get
Okay.
it. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
I almost look though sometimes at our job, and call me crazy, but I find that our jobs are somewhat instructional. Like, I don't plan on sitting in this seat forever. So I want to be sure that anyone out there who's looking to this gets a general sense of how things run. And so by saying special meeting, regular meeting, it actually acclimatizes the public to what actually happens here. Do you see what I mean? And so it's small, but it helps.
The public doesn't understand what work session is.
No, they don't. And when they,
They'll say regular meeting, we know it's our work session. It doesn't
So
matter.
just so we're clear, y'all want all the agendas to say regular meetings?
Unless it's a
yes,
special
unless
meeting.
it's a special meeting.
Okay.
Now, I would like, we can say like, for the budget stuff, because is that a special meeting?
No, it's
You
not.
guys make them regular meetings
They're
here.
not special meetings.
Huh?
They're not special meetings.
Okay, so we can do regular meeting and then maybe underneath it just say budget. So that we know that that's the budget portion of that meeting.
Or in brackets, BS. Sorry.
I mean, yeah,
Or BWS.
yeah.
But just,
Something to,
Something.
just something to show that that's the budget. Like, I'm fine with the work session, like, that's fine, whatever. But the budget stuff, just so people can at least know, like, well, why there's only 2 agenda items on here.
got that. You know, by the way, since we're on that, I'm gonna veer a little bit. One of these upcoming meetings, can we revisit the budget statute? Because I just read something a few months ago that was fascinating, and it seemed to say to me that within a particular period of the municipal schedule, that you actually, as long as you were only talking about budget, you didn't necessarily have to call for separate meetings for each time you discuss it, between May 31st and July 1st. Go figure.
I'm not really sure what
Yeah,
you mean.
no, that's why I say I wanna read it again, but I saw something
That
that was
they-
really
that they do.
fascinating.
Like, we don't have to call for a meeting, we just we can just meet for it.
Yeah, you have to schedule it, but you don't have to call for it as long as you stick to the budget, which makes a heck of a lot of sense, right? Otherwise, you have these regular meetings constantly.
Yeah.
Anyway, just wanted to
Yeah.
pinpoint, can we look at that?
The other thing with this, which I like, with this one, is the fact that there are time limits beside them.
Uh-huh, used to do that too. Yes,
I mean, can we do that?
yes. Now, it was suggestion, but we would,
But once you start, it's 90 minutes and you're at, 3 hours, like,
exactly.
or really 2 hours, then you can.
And see, to me, I think that the whole idea too is that it makes your jobs easier, not just the time thing, but when you come down to a uniform structure of call for a public hearing, if you guys are constantly using the same template, all you have to do is fill in the name and fill in the date, right? It should look exactly the same way every single time.
There's a lot of public hearings on this meeting.
I have to find mine now.
I mean, I love the idea of doing some meetings, a minute.
So y'all would like for us to estimate
Yeah.
minutes, okay?
Yeah, I would.
Good luck. We used to take bets on that. On whether or
I'll
not
go
the
with
council
I'll go
would
with the
stay.
over all day long.
I'm gonna bet on the long shot and under. I like that. I like this format, but I understand what you're saying about the meeting and like condensing everything, just making it a little bit easier to read. But I love this minute situation. I think that's fantastic.
I do too. I mean, I really like the formatting and theme that the staff's come up with on this side. So I feel like if we can tighten up the uniformity and the conventions, we're gonna make really spectacular agendas.
And just one thing that I would note is, from a staff standpoint, we are trying to follow the rules of procedure where it says don't give vague
No, I know.
agenda items
Yeah.
or something like that. So we're trying to be as specific as we can when requesting items because we didn't want to not
Right.
follow those rules of
Right.
procedure. So when we get into the rules of procedure discussion at a later date, we actually have all of these titles as far as the agenda items highlighted as to
Perfect.
what's going to be in there, so y'all can modify
Okay.
that as needed in that rules of procedure as well.
And I think you need to be specific enough, but not writing a dissertation on it.
So, so a couple last minute things on that. So you see where, and mine was not in color, I didn't open it up. A couple other things. There was a rule of procedure, there were a couple discussions in the meeting minutes about controlling public comments and managing meetings. You'll see that one of the suggestions in the meeting minute book I had to go and open it from.
What are we looking at?
Still the agenda. See how it says citizens are welcome to speak during the public comment, blah, blah, blah. And we talked about, in one of the meeting minutes, we talked about how do we communicate when people come to speak about decorum,
Yep.
not interrupting, blah, blah, blah. So we may want to consider going back to that idea where there's something on the agenda, not just the sign-up sheet, but on the agenda that tells them the most imperative things we want to convey about the public comment period.
I mean, I think cut and pasting this onto the agendas when there's a public comment is fine.
Just a
And
thought.
then we have it somewhere and, you can reference, look at the agenda. If you're gonna do a public comment, there's some,
Yeah. And maybe there's nothing on the
Guidelines.
agenda that's controversial,
Right.
but at least you can point to it. The other thing is too, because I know public hearings get long, again, I'm not particularly one way or the
Really?
other. See?
You think they do?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Really?
So
No,
under,
I'm being serious, really?
wait, what?
Public hearings?
What?
You think they go long?
Oh, no, I mean the agenda title.
Oh, I was like, I really think they're fast, but okay. I was like, all right, sorry, go ahead. You
So-
mean the title.
So number 3 under consent agenda, just a thought, because I can see that you guys are having trouble fitting in the information and being transparent. That's why when you see that little italicized point, event celebrating open at Marvin Eford Park. So they would give all the public hearing information, and then to make it a little trim, you describe what it's about, but by doing it that way, it's not like 3 sentences or 4 sentences long. Last.
I wish I had some old agendas to look at.
I didn't want to throw too many in here, but, right, so on the next page, I took the staff's new format, and I put that italicized
There's one if y'all wanna look at
description
it.
underneath.
Just give them back to me.
Oh, sorry, 2 more points. So the other thing about being transparent, when we talk about the consent, when we start to talk about the agenda, we're gonna move H, we're gonna move I, we're gonna move J, we're gonna move 1, we're gonna move 2. I know Christina has trouble with too many letters or numbers or something, you can tell me, I'm not 100% sure, but what I'm finding is going through the audio in particular, especially if they want to be, this council wants to be that reliant on it, you have no clue unless you, when someone says move number 1 and then can you move number 1, which number 1?
Yeah.
So we have to find a way to delineate major sections. I proposed in the agenda, and I really don't care, I just threw it out there. If it's a public hearing, PH1, PH2. So when you're saying, look, can you move PH1, we know what's being moved or being tabled or being
So like
moved.
new business, do NB, or unfinished business, do UB, or village hall, VH.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't care the way Christina does it, but like, or big capital A on each major heading and then numbers, whatever you come up with.
I'm not really sure I follow you, but let me just make one comment. At the last meeting, y'all had advised Barbie to start doing time stamps.
Yeah,
So if she's gonna start doing that, do you think that would alleviate that concern?
it'll help.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand exactly
Hello.
what you mean then, because I'm not following you. So,
Okay.
like just for example, on this action
Yep.
items,
Oh, you
would
mean
you
on
say,
today's agenda?
yeah, would you
Let
say,
me go back.
Sorry, which one? What?
just on the agenda for today, like action
Yeah.
item, would I say for number 1, would I say AI1,
Yes.
AI2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Items of discussion would be ID1, ID2. If you want to just do like, A,
Like-
B, C, D for all the green titles, that would help too. But just something.
Like here, like I like on the back sheet, even though it's blurry, this like public hearings. So it's got public hearings and then PH.
So it's-
Presentations, P. Reports and
Yeah.
updates, RU.
But to Mary's point, if you labeled all these A, B, C, so under B1, instead of getting into the PH and what does PH mean and stuff, you're just looking at agenda item B.
Is he the name?
I know, yeah. I like to, well, I mean, we've got 3 of us here.
I wasn't sure who it was either.
Hey!
We want to introduce ourselves real quick.
Hey.
We only got 3 of us here,
Mayor.
5, but we'll
Come
at least
back here.
introduce yourself. Mayor Joe. See, at least wants to be you. I went to a meeting, so
That's all right.
Hey, how are
We'll
you?
take a quick recess. Call
Oh,
it
yeah.
a quick recess.
Oh,
Hey, so moved.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.